Hello everyone, and thank you guys for tuning back into another video. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. But what I'm going to be doing today is going over part 3 of the trades that I ended up taking after the big loss. And these trades essentially helped me reach over $3,000 and reach a new high in this account. But in my opinion, this is going to be the most probably impressive episode of the 3 just because of the big win that I have, but I'll explain that in a bit. But the first trade that I'm going to explain is on MSFT, and if we go down here, we can see that I traded it August 22nd. I entered a position which was relatively small for the account size that I was trading. I entered a 855 position, which was only 4 contracts at 214, so very small position. I was looking for a quick flip. I entered them at 1:33 p.m. Eastern, and then we go ahead and look. We closed them around an hour later, so this was a little bit of a longer hold, but like I said, it was a really small gain. The chart setup kind of was starting to fall apart, and I had a little bit of money gained on this trade, so I decided to close out the trade and not risk it, and that's why it's a relatively small win compared to what I normally aim for. I normally aim for trying to get at least 10%, but this one was a little bit less than that. But nonetheless, I also had a very small position, only 4 contracts, so not really too much this trade. I'll explain more into how the trend was starting to break down and why I closed out of the position. But now for the trade that everyone has been waiting for, the $1,000 trade that I ended up doing was on Walmart. And if we go down here, I'll show you guys the trade. I took the trade in 2 parts actually. The first part, I ended up buying 6 contracts. You see 6 contracts at 1.77 average, and I bought them at 1:39 p.m. Eastern time, so this was near the closing. And what I ended up doing later, because I ended up checking back into the trade and the charts, and right before close I noticed that Walmart was starting to gap down even more, but still to the point where it was reasonable and I wasn't down too much. I think I was down around $20 to $30. I decided to buy 6 more contracts at an average of 1.72, and that ended up being $1,032. So I believe my average was around 175, and so I decided to swing this trade because the chart still showed a nice setup. And then Monday, or not Monday, I mean the next day, which was August 21st, you see right at the open 9:31, so basically right at market open within the first minute, I ended up selling them at 2.65. So from my average of 1.75 to 2.65, almost a $100 move per contract, and we had 12 contracts, so this ended up being a win of $1,086, and up to date this has been my biggest win on this account. But I'm going to go ahead and hop over to the TD Ameritrade chart so I can kind of go a little bit more in detail as to what I was doing and what was going through my mind when I took these trades. So here's the Msft chart, and the reason why I ended up taking this trade was because I saw that in the morning it began to gap down quite a bit, even though it was gapping up into the pre-market. Once market opened, it gapped down, and then it seemed to find support around the 136 area. You see after that low of 136.29, it kind of just started to continue to build up an uptrend towards the end of the day. And around midday, you see that it crossed over the green line in the middle, which is the EMA line, and it kind of continued its uptrend. It was able to break over the 137 area. However, going into the closing, it was kind of having some trouble to continue uptrending. You see that on these candles, it tried retracing back to that EMA line, and it kind of found some support along the EMA line. You see it wasn't able to break under it, but it kind of just hovered over it, and it bounced off when it hit the EMA line. So the reason why I ended up taking this trade was after this green candle right here. You see how it kind of retraced back to the EMA line, which is the green line right there in the middle, and it kind of just bounced off that. So after it did that, I was waiting for an entry point, and you can see that right in the next candle it did the exact same thing. It retraced back to the green EMA line, and then it bounced back, and so I was able to make a quick profit on this. And the reason why I didn't hold was because I just wasn't liking how there was a lot of price action movement within the last couple of hours in the trading day, and so for me that just seems like there's a lot of volatility, and that's a lot of risk. That with the profit that I had, I'd rather just take the small profit and move on than risk potentially losing the almost $900 investment that I had on the trade. So that's why it was a really small position and really small win. And if we go ahead and zoom out a little bit, you see that I actually did a really good job in taking the profits, because Friday morning it started to gap down even more. You see, it ended up closing at around 338 or $138, just about 138. However, market open, it opened at around 137.03 and a high of 137.61. And then after that, it just kind of began to downtrend, and it ended the day at a low of 132.8. So definitely good job on my part on not getting greedy and knowing when the chart pattern is kind of starting to fall out. And that's why I always express that it's always better to take profits, even if they're small, because you never know if you hold and that the profits might not be there the next day. But that's pretty much it for this trade. Now I'm going to go ahead and explain the Wmd trade. So here is the Wmd chart, and as you guys can see, August 20th, what ended up catching my attention was that it kind of just started downtrending the whole day, and it was reaching a very strong support area in my opinion. And you might ask, why would I purchase calls on something that has just been downtrending? And well, we go back and look at the 20 days chart here. We can see that just a couple days prior to that, it reached that same 112 area. After it had a big gap down, you see it was trading around the $114 area, and then it had a big gap down to the 112.06, and then that area became some strong support because it ended up bouncing and gapping up, going as high as 114.77. So come Tuesday, August 20th, it was doing that same exact thing. It got rejected from that 115 area and then continued to downtrend all the way down to the 112.01. And then in my opinion, that's when I entered the first portion of my trade, which is 6 shares or 6 contracts at a price of 1.77. It did, however, end up breaking below the 112 area really quickly, but then recovering. It ended up closing the day at 111.92, and it was between those last couple, I think it was those last 15 minutes of trading where I ended up purchasing 6 more contracts, and so I had lowered my average from 1.77 down to 1.75, and so at the end of the day on Tuesday I had 12 contracts with an average price of 1.75. But going into Wednesday, August 21st, you see that it did exactly what it did a couple days prior and exactly what I had expected it to do. It bounced off that 112 support area, and it got as high as up to 113.86. And if you guys remember what I showed you in the Robinhood section of the video, I ended up selling right in the first minute of trading that day. So right upon market open, I ended up selling them, and that's how I ended up making a quick $1,000, and I think it was 1,086 if I remember correctly, swing trade. And this is another one of those trades where I like to kind of bring up that you should never get greedy, because had I gotten greedy and hold on longer to try and see if it was going to continue uptrending, I would have actually ended up losing money, because you see, once again, it got rejected from that 114 area, wasn't able to really cross over and make a decent move towards the upside, and then it just continued the downtrend. And if we zoom out even more, we can see that the downtrend ended up continuing up until the 23rd, and then kind of just found support around the 110 area and then continue to build up from that. But that's pretty much it for this trade. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. As always, I will see you guys in the next video.